What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm gonna review probably the most recent mixtape by Triple C's. Basically, this project is called Carol City Cartels, the mixtape, and it came out in the late fall of 2010. So the thing about this particular project is Triple C's had dropped a number of mixtapes, and they dropped an album in 2009, but they dropped a number of mixtapes between 2007 and 2010. To my knowledge, at least the information that's stacked up about this particular group, this is pretty much like the most recent project that has of note relatively on there. Now, the thing about Rick Ross is the fact that after 2010, Rick Ross did briefly in 2010 try to put out a second Triple C's album, and he had the hit single Walking on Water that came out in the summer of 2010, which is on this particular project. So I definitely wanted to review this project because I never got around to listening to that Walking on Water single that came out in the summer of 2010 back in the day, and I kind of wondered what happened with the second Triple C's album. But eventually, what happened instead was a series of Maybach Music MMG albums. In particular, those albums were Self-Made, the Self-Mades Volume 1, 2, and 3. Now, around this time in late 2010, Rick Ross also found folks like Wale and Meek Mill and Pill and some of those type folks, just a bunch of folks that made up, like Stallion, folks like that amalgamated like the formats of the Maybach Music albums between the in like the early 2010s as far as that pitch can go. So it kind of felt like Triple C's kind of became an afterthought. At least in like 2009, 2008, 2007, it seemed like Triple C's was going to be the next big thing from Rick Ross. But once he found like some of these Maybach Music Group song, once he found some of these Maybach Music Group artists in particular, kind of cast Triple C's off the wayside as far as that particular pitch kind of went along with it. And the thing about this particular project is just the fact that this is not as much like a Triple C's full blown kind of project here. I'd have to say, really, there's really only two new songs that would be from Triple C's the group as far as that pitch can goes. There's a lot of returning songs from their 2009 album, which is kind of unfortunate. I'm just going to count those as almost songs, but I would have to say, for the most part, this project is amalgamated of like solo songs from the artists Gunplay, Young Breed, and Torch as far as that particularly kind of goes. Those are the members of Triple C as far as that kind of went. Would have to say some of these are okay, but they're not quite as compelling as like the Triple C songs that were on the album and some of their mixtapes from like the late 2000s. I'd have to say. So that's kind of the concept about it. Look after it. This is a pretty boisterous project. At least it's haphazard in a sense to be able to say it's got some gems on here in particular, but I just kind of feel like some of this is just mismanaged and just didn't really have the affability. I was really interested in seeing what Triple C's could have done in 2010, but the amalgamation behind it is just the fact that it kind of felt awkward just because Rick Ross was metamorphosizing in 2010 with his hit album Teflon Don and the drill rap sound that's kind of going along with songs like I Am Not a Star and like MC Hammer and some of those hit songs that Rick Ross had around that particular time. And there's like another one, I forget what it's called, it has Styles P on there. I forget what that song is called, but the second single off of Teflon Don, I'd have to say in particular, is just the concept about it. But Triple C's was kind of caught in an awkward place in 2010 just because they didn't really catch on to like the drill rap type song. They at least tried on the song Bust Your Heart, I'd have to say, but it's just kind of a differential pitch just because that was more fitting of Rick Ross, folks like Rick Ross, Yo Gotti, Gunplay. The Triple C's rapper Gunplay translated pretty well to this. He has a song on this particular project. This is the earliest rendition of the song Rollin' with Waka Flocka Flame. This was also on a Gunplay mixtape from early 2011. It was a charting single back in 2011. Pretty hit song. Do enjoy that song quite a bit, but it was really just more Rick Ross and Gunplay that translated to like the drill type sound. So it kind of felt like Triple C's kind of became an afterthought. But I want to say that all these individual members have mixtapes, so I'm gonna have to get to some of these as far as that pitch can goes. I do have a Gunplay project that's gonna be showing up sooner than later as far as that pitch can goes. But I just would have to say it's kind of the concept about it. So there's really only two new Triple C songs that are kind of caught in like an awkward type momentum as far as that particular pitch kind of went. I do like the song Walking on Water. It's a hit single. Definitely feel like it had some appreciation. That's definitely worthwhile to the cause. It's kind of the concept that they just were kind of in an awkward space. It's because Rick Ross was trying to work on Maybach music and stuff like that. Some of these new artists that he found is because Triple C's didn't really chart that heavily. Meek Mill and Wale were just it's unfortunate, but Meek Mill and Wale were just better investments. Not to say that Triple C's was not a good investment. It was just kind of the concept that they just didn't have the chart appeal with their Triple C's album from 2009. For some reason, the album didn't really do that terrific. There were plenty of hit songs on there like Go and Trickin' Off and White Sand and some of those type ones. And like the song with Jeezy, I think there's a song on there. Maybe I don't remember the name of that song, but there were some good guests on there, great songs on there, just some good pitches. Kind of get that one in particular. Had some excellent stuff. Do recommend that one quite a bit, but it just didn't really do that well casually. I'd have to say in particular. Rick Ross was kind of in an awkward territory until about 2010 when he jumped back into the spotlight with Teflon Don and later albums like Maybach Music, Self Made Volume 1, and Rich Forever and some of those type projects, I'd have to say. But we'll go ahead and talk about the single on here. So there was at least one single, like I was saying. This is pretty much to my knowledge, this is the most recent Triple C song. I'd have to say the newest one, the most recent in terms of those relative pitches as to what they did as a group and pitches like that. And that would be Walking on Water. It's a real nice one. It's like a tittering kind of shrill night traverse of a song. I'd have to say in particular, a lot more litty than the song Go from 2009, the lead single off the 2009 album. I'd have to say in particular. I want to say that the second Triple C's album is going to be called like Custom Cars and Clarity, something like that. It had some Triple C type name as far as that particular kind of went. I was pretty interested in that album back in the day, but this is a pretty nice look for that particular album that was going to happen. It's like a good late smoke one kind of song, I'd have to say in particular. Just some residential type fare just for smokage, just in late night, just kind of late night sessions, going and getting some gas station supplies, some pitches like that, some Swishers, some Jack Daniels, some Chex Mix, and pitches like that. And I'd have to say this is just a pretty overlooked single, I'd have to say in particular. This one just has more night bite about it. I'd have to say it's definitely for some night owls and pitches like that. I'd have to suppose in particular just some real nice fair and stuff like that, residential type stuff. This could be a pretty sparkly nightclub. This could be a pretty sparkly nightclub song, I'd have to say in particular. Pretty good pitch to kind of get that one as far as that particular kind of goes. It's a little bit of pseudo drill rap in there. This is a real kind of fairy and just energetic, frenetic type one in particular. I really like the shrill energy of this, just the tittering beat. Just the tittering beat as far as that particular kind of goes. This kind of concept, it works pretty damn well as far as that aspect kind of happens with it, but I just look after it. It's unfortunate that this song didn't really have much chart appeal as far as that particular kind of went, because Triple C's, once again, this is the second concept. This is the second concept of them mostly being ignored as far as that pitch kind of went along with it. But this is some excellent stuff here. This is a great single. This one's probably a little bit better than Go from 2009, I'd have to say, or Every Day, both the singles off of the Custom Cars and Cycles album from 2009. Or I feel like Go is more day type fare, just more like 7 o'clock p.m. This is more like 11 midnight type fare as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with it. Just some real frenetic type stuff that should get you energized pretty quickly. And I like the fact that this single was included on the mixtape. They could have just left this as like a standalone single and not put it on a particular project, but I'm definitely very glad that this showed up on the most recent Triple C's project it had to say in particular. Definitely glad that it's on here. It's one of the main reasons I was checking out this project, just to be able to find the home body where I can get this particular song, because Triple C's is pretty damn dope, I'd have to say, despite their lack of casual appeal. But the rest of the songs on this mixtape, so there's basically 14 songs in this particular mixtape. Now those 14, I wound up recommending to you 5.5, so that's basically almost 6 songs, one of which is All On You. The almost song is All On You, but then there's 3 extra almost songs that are to be found on like the Triple C's album and Gunplay's mixtape. So basically the 3 almost songs that are to be found elsewhere would be Rollin', We Gettin' It, and the Yams remix. Basically Yams and We Gettin' It are on the Triple C's album from 2009, and Rollin' is on Gunplay's mixtape Inglorious Bastard from 2011. I'd have to say in particular, so that's some dope concepts. I'm not going to recommend those songs full blown, but I do recommend them just to be able to fuck with. I would just recommend getting the Triple C's album and the Gunplay mixtape as far as that particular kind of goes. But they're all really great songs. Rollin's a real nice one. That's a charting single. Definitely had some hit appeal. Real frenetic drill type energy. Like I was saying, it's a real nice one. We Gettin' It and Yams remix are some club type songs that work in particular, I'd have to say. There is another song that's kind of on the Triple C's album that was on here, and that's White Sand. I want to say it's like a newer rendition, something like that, but it's just the same beat and pitches like that. I just would recommend the White Sand that's on like the Triple C's album. I just would recommend the White Sand that's on the Triple C's album from 2009, I'd have to say. But to basically talk about the 5.5 songs I recommend on here, basically Bust Your Heart's the only other new Triple C song on this particular project circa 2010, I'd have to say. So it's another recent type one to kind of get here. It's like a secret kind of drill pounder, I'd have to say in particular. This is a good look for Triple C's, I'd have to say, but it's just different from their usual type sound. It's just interesting them trying to acclimate to like the drill sound that was becoming popular in like the summer of 2010, like Rick Ross kind of did. Just felt like they didn't translate quite as well as far as that pitch kind of went. That was more Rick Ross type stuff. I mean, Gunplay does it pretty well as well, but I just feel like this kind of particular pitch just didn't work quite as well for them. It just felt like that was more something that was just a differential type trend. And I think that had to do with why Triple C's didn't last much longer. It's just kind of the concept that the unfortunate thing, for some reason, they just couldn't catch on to like that commercial bite. I mean, it's good that Rick Ross at least tried to get them into drill and some pitches like that to get some of these ferocious type songs. It is at least a pretty heavy pounder, I'd have to say in particular, a pretty nice one. Just typical of like I Am Not a Star and some of those type ones, and Tupac Back from like the Maybach music albums and pitches like that. But it's just kind of the concept. It just feels somewhat awkward here in Triple C's do it. It's not awkward in a bad way. It's just kind of the concept. It just feels different from their style that they had. And that's kind of the thing about it. But some of these other ones, like Taste Test, is a pretty nice one. This is a Torch song. I do like some of these Torch songs on here. He has some good ones. It's like an oozing kind of trap noise of a song in particular, I'd have to say. It's like a litty kind of evening activity for some turn up, I would definitely have to suppose. And this song should get you pumped pretty quickly. So I just feel about some of these, all of these Triple C's artists have some really good trap songs on here in particular. It's unfortunate that Gunplay didn't deliver better because he was basically like the second biggest member out of Triple C's, I'd have to say. He really got a hit career going in pitches like that. He dropped some albums. But apart from Rollin' and one other song on here, I just would have to say it's just kind of here and there, I'd have to suppose. But Taste Test is a pretty nice one. It's like a real oozing type one. Has some pretty emphatic production and pitches like that. Just some litty evening type fare just for pitches like that. Just some step out and just kind of some step out and kind of crunk moments to kind of get here. Saying something with Young Breed's another nice one. This is pretty pitched. This says OJ to Juice Man on there, which is a pretty nice pitch. The thing about this particular Triple C's project is they have some good guests on here, so they're not short on budget. You're gonna find that like Busta Rhymes is on here, and like Yo Gotti's on here a couple of times, and like OJ the Juice Man's on here, some folks like that. There's just some extra guests on here. I'm gonna have to keep checking back and forth between my phone to see some of these, but just understand the fact that there's some good guests on here. Bangya City has some good guests. Saying Something has OJ the Juice Man on here, so it's like an early 2010s kind of trap rumbler, I'd have to say in particular. This one feels like a Juice Man song. OJ the Juice Man song definitely has the ad libs and pitches like that. Pretty good pitch. Just sounds like Atlanta trap circa 2009, 2010, I'd have to say. And this is just some nice night residential type stuff. Once again, good to get some snackage pitches like that. Just smoking like the night type fare, going to Taco Bell, some pitches like that, I'd have to say. Excellent kind of concepts. Just some good pitches for that. Bangya City's a pretty nice one. This is another Torch song. It's like a posse cut. It's too bad that Waka Flocka didn't drop a verse on this particular song. Busta Rhymes is kind of in like the interlude on here, but it's got like Yo Gotti, Rick Ross, Torch, and like a fourth cat. I think it's like a Puerto Rican rapper, but I couldn't figure out in particular as to who it was, I'd have to say. It's just kind of the concept about it. There's not a ton of information about this project in particular. It's just kind of here and there. Wikipedia doesn't really know a ton about this particular project, so there's not a ton of places that really did. This is like a good Bangya City's like a good reppin' city kind of bravado, I'd have to say. Bangya City's like a good reppin' city kind of bravado, I'd have to say in particular. It's like some late night activity, I would definitely feel like in this song is just energizing and inviting. This is definitely like a stand up type song get turned up pitches like that, just get rowdy pitches like that. Could be a pretty good nightclub song, but this works for put on for your city. This is the sort of stuff that Jeezy was doing back in 2008. Good city type song just kind of get here. I mean, these songs don't often happen as much as they do. Like when Lil Scrappy would drop Forever I Love Atlanta, or Lil Jon would drop like Rep Yo City. Some of those type ones is just a good nice one to remember some of those pitches, especially circa the early 2010s as that started to phase out. So it's a pretty nice one. And then of course like the Almost song is All on You. This is a pretty nice one for the most part, I'd have to say. I do like this song, but I'm just kind of here and there about it. This is like a quick living kind of Miami Fried City outings of a song, I'd have to say in particular. Just real fast paced, real like the pacing of it, just real snappy, I'd have to suppose in particular. This song just reminds me of the Vice City game for the PlayStation as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it, and this song just exhilarates pretty well. So there's definitely some Miami Fried type stuff. Just southern energy, just pitches like that. Just a great song to listen to down in Florida. Some pitches like that, just beach bound pitches like that, just night type fare, just the glissy kind of nightlife and pitches, that sort of stuff, I'd have to say. Even going to Vegas, some of those type places where there'd be neon lights, some of that type stuff. Real nice seedy nightlife as far as that particular kind of goes. Strip club type tune, just a real exhilarating type one. This one just reminds me of something to listen to just in a more overcast type day. As the sun's setting, like 6:37 p.m. as you get ready to decide what you're going to do for the night. Just some good pitches, just kind of an ominous type song, I'd have to say in particular. Really like that one. The reason why it's an almost song is just because I don't know how oftenly I'd listen to it. I like the production on here, but I like the production in the way Gunplay raps on this particular song, but it's just not as heavy hitting of one. I don't know how oftenly I'd listen to it when it were to come up. Or something like that, I'd have to suppose. It's not really like a dance club song. It's not really like a lady song, pitches like that. It's not really like a smoke one type song or a cruise out type song. I mean, it's kind of somewhat of like a Travers type song and like a relative kind of end of work shift type sense, that I suppose in particular, but it's kind of here and there. It's just kind of a more ominous type one that just kind of works for like some kind of whimsical type moments that just kind of feel offhanded for the most part. I had to say, is this kind of concept of just questioning when and where you'd listen to it. Is this kind of concept? I just feel like I'd listen to it in certain senses, but maybe not 9 or 10 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10 that would really happen, I'd have to say. But it is a relatively good song, I'd have to suppose. That's the concept about this particular mixtape. So, talk about some of the songs I don't recommend on here. Some of these ones were just some flat club type songs, like Get Dough is kind of a poor type one that just probably shouldn't have had guests on there. I would have liked to have seen like though Triple C's rapper do better on this particular one as far as that particular kind of goes. Miss Me was just a poor type instrumental to rap to. It really didn't really ever enjoy that particular production off of Drake's Thank Me Later, I'd have to say. I didn't really like the fact of Lil Wayne being on that song. I definitely feel like Lil Wayne could have rapped on a far better song as that, but it's just one that just was not that compelling to listen to. White Sand is just better on the Triple C's album from 2009. This side was just kind of a poor type one, and then Higher was just a poor type ladies type song that just didn't work out that well. It's just kind of a flat type one that just didn't have very much compellingness about it. I have to say, in particular, it's just kind of a weak type one. But that just kind of happens to be the thing about it. So me recommending basically 5.5 songs out of 14 on this particular mixtape plus 3 almost songs. It's approximately 9 out of 14, but it's not going to get that high of a score just because of the fact that 3 of these are almost songs that you can find on other projects. I'd have to say, so it's basically approximately 6 out of 14. So I'm going to go ahead and give this mixtape like a 6.75 out of 10 just because the songs that are on the other projects are at least good, but it's just kind of the concept that it negates the score somewhat. But it's just kind of the concept that there are some good songs on here, but it's just kind of in smaller patches. I'd have to say there are some nice ones, but unfortunately there's not a ton of Triple C songs that are original and new as far as that particular pitch kind of goes. I do feel like Walking on Water and Bust Your Heart are definitely some of the best moments on this particular project, and I'm definitely glad that they put their brand new single on this particular project as well. But it's just kind of the concept. Some of these solo type affairs don't really add up to much. I mean, I did like the fact that Gunplay's Rollin' was at least on here, but that just was better off on like the Gunplay mixtape that he dropped later on as like a solo affair, I'd have to say. It was just kind of the concept. Unfortunately, the Triple C's group members just by themselves is not quite as full-blown compelling as what it might have needed to be as this kind of concept. So this group kind of dried up relatively quickly after their 2009 album, which is unfortunate because I do feel like the group had some potential despite their lack of kind of casual appeal. And that kind of boiled down to like the singles like Go and Walking on Water not hitting that heavily, but they were good. They are some pretty good quality. It's just the fact that they just didn't catch on for some reason. This is kind of the concept. But I look after it, 6.75 score. The social score is going to get that's kind of tricky. I think I'm going to give the social score like a 7.5 out of 10 because I feel like there's some definite gems on here. Walking in the Water is a great nightclub song, and some definite night traverse songs like Bust Your Heart and Bang Ya City and All on You and some of those type ones. Saying Something, Taste Test, some of those type ones. All 6 of the songs that I recommend in some fashion are some great songs for that particular pitch. And then there's also some good almost songs on here that just work for that. So there's also some good almost songs on here that work for that relative pitch as well, just within that social type fair. So it's got some good night appeal as far as that particular thing goes. This feels like a gleaming kind of just kind of blurry and just kind of malaise Miami night as far as that pitch kind of goes. Just some good Miami evening life and nightlife just within that relative pitch. Just end of work shift, night traverse, getting snackage, smokage, pitches like that, getting ready, step out to nightclubs, strip clubs, some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. Just some good evening loud pack just for like an accompaniment to some good Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as far as that pitch kind of goes. Just some good concepts I'd have to say. But in terms of the future, like that's difficult just because Triple C's kind of broke up for the most part. Not to say that they don't ever do anything. It was just kind of the concept that this project came out in 2010. That's 13 and a half years ago, so it's been quite a while. Most of these folks still have careers in rap music. I'd have to say Gunplay still drops stuff. I'm not as full-blown sure about Torch and Young Breed, I'd have to say, but Rick Ross definitely does. So some pitches there just to be able to get in particular. I'll definitely have to check out some more of these, including some more Triple C's mixtapes as far as that particular kind of goes. But this is a good project to get. It's very low-key as far as that pitch kind of goes, but it's worth the investment as far as some of this gleaming kind of nightlife that just has some exhilaration about it, just for like some night type fare for some Miami nightlife and pitches like that. And this overall residential type step out for some smokage, I'd have to say. So I do recommend it.